Okay, you have a listing appointment. Congratulations. How do you go in and articulate how commissions are being paid and what is the difference between a listing appointment a month ago and what's happening today? So I went on a listing appointment a couple days ago, and the seller knew about the lawsuit, didn't really have a lot of clarity, but was interested in understanding how this is all going to be paid out and broken down. First of all, my listing appointments, you know what I do. I go in, I walk the property, I build a relationship, and then we sit down at the table. We do not talk about the sale price of the house. I always let them know that, hey, I love touring your home. I really love the concept and the finishes and some of the upgrades you've done. Let me do some research and I'll get back to you on price. Let's talk about how we're getting paid. The commissions have now been decoupled. So we are not going in saying, hey, we're charging 5% or 6%, and then maybe talking about how that's broken up. So what I always do and what I've always done is, hey, we're going in, we're charging 2.5% to Mark Allen Realty. For those services, you are getting XYZ, and however you guys map your stuff out. I always covered photography. I did a staging consultation. I included video footage, depending on the property and what it needed to get that sold and get the right exposure. We always included it in the commission. We never had an upfront fee. We also had a buyer's agent commission separate from what we were charging. I always let them know, hey, we're going to offer the buyer's agent 2.5%. So now during my conversations, I go in and I talk about, hey, Mark Allen Realty is getting 2.5%. And since this lawsuit, since August 17th, we're just trying to make it more transparent. We do suggest that the sellers set aside 2.5% for a buyer's broker. And why? What does that mean? Well, most buyers are going to be working with an agent, and that is a good thing. It helps them navigate the process. It helps them understand pricing, and it helps, most importantly, facilitate a smooth transaction. My job is to get this seller from listing to contract to sold. Super important. So contract to sold, that's the big part, right? And you need a buyer's agent to help facilitate that. There's inspection items, and inspections can be daunting. Even if the buyers don't have a buyer's agent, they're going to have an inspection. And without a buyer's agent to help settle them down, some of these inspectors can really scare the shit out of buyers and kill deals. So getting that to the closing table is really important. Setting aside money for a buyer's broker is just the language that I'm using. So when we're getting this property on the market and receiving offers, you're going to see buyer's agents coming in, writing offers, and they're going to include a buyer addendum that says, hey, this offer is for $400,000 for your property at 123 Main Street. Here's my buyer's terms. And then also, here's a bucket that we'd love the seller to pay the buyer's broker, 2.5% commission. Maybe a buyer's agent will ask for 2%. Maybe they'll ask for 3%. This is all negotiable. But during the listing appointment, I want you to be sure to recommend that the seller set aside some money so that this buyer's agent can be paid. Now, that has nothing to do with your listing commission. Your seller's agent commission is totally separate. Talk about that on a different line item, but let them know that 90% of the time there's going to be a buyer agent, and most of the time this buyer brokerage is going to be asking for compensation from the seller. We're only 2 weeks into this, and I'm already seeing these documents come in with offer packages. So do not be surprised to continue to see them. Once in a while, like we have in the past, we'll see a buyer going rogue and just doing this shit on their own, or using a flat fee broker, or Redfin might change their model, and there's going to be new businesses come up. We're going to adapt, and we're going to talk about those as we see them. But for now, traditional brokerage deals that we're seeing, please understand that these sellers should be setting aside a bucket of money for these buyer's agents if they want to get deals done. And they don't have to pay it. That's totally fine. But I do think it will ultimately affect their sale price because these buyers are savvy. So if you're looking at a $400,000 property and it comps out at 400, historically the seller paid the commission. Well, that's fine. The buyer might be like, hey, that's cool that your seller doesn't want to pay 400. Typical buy side commission around $10,000. We're now offering $390,000 for this property because my buyer has to pay my brokerage $10,000 to cover that cost. So 400 this way, 400 that way, whatever way you want to slice it. These buyers agents are savvy, smart, sophisticated. All that sales comp info is out there. So expect to see comps coming in line with recent sales, understanding what commissions have been or will be paid out and how that all works. So make sure your documentation is in place. Make sure you're outlining net proceeds for your client and helping them understand what to expect, which is the most important thing. And one of the biggest things that I've always kind of relied on is setting the tone, setting expectations, and giving them information so they're not blindsided. So they're not being presented with information that they weren't previously talked about. So good luck out there. Talk to you soon.